I was standing in my kitchen, still in my grease-streaked coveralls, when my phone buzzed. I thought it was Ryan checking in. Instead, it was my father. "Don't come to the wedding. You're a failure." That was it. Nothing else. No explanation. Just a gut punch wrapped in 6 words. I stared at the screen. My thumb hovered, but I didn't respond. My heart didn't race. My eyes didn't even water. I just stood there, phone in hand, like my whole body had stopped mid-motion. And what hit me hardest? I wasn't even surprised. Quick note: before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. The coffee pot sputtered behind me, trying to finish its last pathetic drip. I reached over, killed the power, and leaned against the counter. My hands were black from brake dust. I'd just come off a 9-hour shift at the shop. Same work he used to do. Same work he told me I'd never make it in. He used to sit in the garage after dinner, polishing tools like they were made of gold. I'd walk in with a notebook full of sketches for engine builds, and he'd barely look up. "That's cute," he'd say. Or, "Why don't you study something that makes sense?" I was 14 when I told him I wanted to be a mechanic. He laughed in my face, not even subtle. Just barked out a laugh like I told him I wanted to be a circus clown. "You're not built for that," he said. "Use your head, not your hands." And that was him. James Callahan, ex-Marine, king of cold shoulders, proud owner of the family garage in Joliet, Illinois. He didn't yell. He didn't have to. His silence carried more weight than a damn engine block. Even when I got certified, even when I landed a spot at one of the top auto repair shops in Chicago. He never said, "Good job," never asked how things were going. But he'd brag to customers about his daughter working with cars like he had something to do with it. Never mind that he told me I was wasting my time every step of the way. I locked my phone and slid it into my back pocket. The wedding was tomorrow. Ryan and I had kept it small, just a handful of close friends and a few coworkers. I didn't expect much from my father, but still, that message hit like a tire iron to the chest. And yet, all I felt now was steel. Cold, sharp determination. I walked over to the sink, scrubbed the oil off my hands, and reached for my coveralls. Wiped the last of the grime from my chest pocket, where my name patch was stitched bold, Sarah. I wasn't going to cry. I'd already earned everything I had, with or without him. Then I grabbed my keys and walked back out to the shop. I walked straight to Bay 4, threw the hood up on the busted Chevy we'd been working on all week, and buried myself in the job. I didn't want to think. I needed grease under my nails, torque wrenches in my hands, and something mechanical that actually made sense. It was always like that growing up. When things didn't make sense at home, I'd escape to the garage. Not the family one, but the little one I built in my head. The one where I was allowed to be who I was without getting picked apart. My dad, he never raised his voice. He didn't have to. His disappointment had this way of sinking in deep, like rust on a frame, slow, silent, and impossible to scrub out. I'd come home from school all excited after building a motorized car in shop class, and he'd barely glance up from the newspaper. "What's the point of that?" he'd ask, like I'd wasted his time just by existing. He was an ex-Marine, ran the garage like a drill sergeant. Believed in toughness, precision, no excuses. That might have worked on a battlefield, but in a house with a kid who just wanted a little damn approval, it was like living under a microscope. "Boys turn wrenches, girls teach kindergarten," he told me once. I was 16. We were standing in the middle of his garage. I'd asked if I could help with an engine rebuild he had going. He didn't even look at me. "Mom teaches 4th grade," I said. "Exactly," he said. Like that settled it. She was the opposite. Gentle voice, warm hands, always smelling like chalk and lemon tea. She'd sneak me books on automotive design and wrap them in plain paper so Dad wouldn't ask questions. She believed in me. Whispered it, always. "If it lights you up, Sarah, it's meant for you." But her voice never stood a chance against his silence. I used to think if I worked harder, he'd finally see me. I'd detail his tools until they gleamed, reorganize the sockets in perfect rows, memorize parts manuals just so I could talk shop with him. He never noticed. "Stop wasting your time," he said once when he caught me sketching a transmission diagram at the dinner table. "You're not going to be under a hood for a living. That's not for girls like you." Girls like me. That stuck with me. So I made it my mission to prove him wrong. First came the trade school, then the internship where I was the only woman in the bay. Guys would drop comments under their breath, jokes about me needing help lifting tires or asking if I was just there to check the snacks. I didn't flinch. I outworked every one of them. And when I got certified and hired full-time at one of the busiest shops in Chicago, I sent Mom a picture of me holding my wrench set like a trophy. I didn't send Dad anything. He already decided who I was. He never asked what I'd become. The thing is, I still wanted him to see it. That was the part that pissed me off the most. I could say I didn't care, act like I'd written him off. But there was always this itch under the skin. Like maybe if I just hit the next milestone, he'd finally say, "Good job, kid." But that message on my phone, "You're a failure." That erased any last flicker of hope. Screw him. I'd made it in a field where women make up, what, less than 10%? I'd earned respect the hard way, through busted knuckles, long hours, and having to prove myself twice as hard for half the recognition. Every time I walk into the shop, I walk in like I belong there, because I do. He never gave me that, but I took it anyway. I wiped sweat off my neck, leaned over the engine, and cranked the ratchet hard until the bolt snapped loose. Let him sit with his outdated rules and bitter pride. I wasn't going back for his approval. I never needed it to begin with. By the time I got home, my arms were sore and my head was buzzing, but not from the work. That damn message still sat like a rock in my back pocket. I didn't pull it out. Didn't need to. The words were carved into my skull. I locked the door behind me, kicked off my boots, and stood in the middle of the living room. The place was quiet. Too quiet for the morning of your wedding. No bridesmaids, no champagne flutes, no mother fussing over a dress. Just me, the ticking wall clock, and the scent of motor oil baked into my skin. I walked to the bedroom and pulled out the suit bag from my closet. Not white satin, no lace. Just my custom navy blue coveralls, tailored clean, pressed to perfection. Ryan had helped me pick the fabric, strong but breathable, with my shop's logo stitched in white across the back, and my name, Sarah, embroidered over the heart. I slipped it on slow, like armor. Then I reached into the drawer and grabbed the charm. It was small, a hex nut wrapped in silver, hooked to a keychain. From the first job I led solo at the shop, engine rebuild on a '96 Bronco. 3 guys told me I couldn't do it. One of them called me sweetheart in the middle of the bay. By the end of the week, the Bronco purred like new, and the guy never spoke to me again. My boss handed me that nut and said, "Keep this. Proof you shut them all up." I clipped it to my belt loop. My phone lit up with messages, a flood of them. "Laura, you better not be late to your own wedding, grease monkey. Tony from the shop. Wishing you the best today. You've earned every bit of it. Manny. If Ryan gives you any trouble, tell him I got a torque wrench with his name on it." I chuckled, texted back a quick "thanks" with a wrench emoji. Then I saw the unread one sitting at the top. Dad. Still unread. Still untouched. I stared at it. For a second, my thumb moved to open it again. Like maybe it changed. Like maybe it now said something else. Something worth reading. It didn't. I tossed the phone onto the couch and turned away. Enough. I moved to the mirror and adjusted my collar, tightened the cuffs. The coveralls looked sharp, crisp lines, dark color, everything I stood for stitched in thread and grit. Ryan was wearing his own custom getup to match, a light gray jumpsuit with our initials on the sleeve. He texted me a picture the night before, grinning like a goofball. "You sure this ain't too much?" he asked. "It's perfect," I told him. I touched the hex nut one more time and looked at my reflection. I didn't see a failure. I saw a woman who clawed her way up in a world that kept trying to shove her down. But still, I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a piece of me, small, pathetic maybe, that wanted to turn around and find him standing at the door. Just once. Just to prove he gave a damn. But he wasn't coming. And I wasn't waiting. I grabbed my keys, slung on my leather jacket, and headed for the door. The chapel sat off a quiet road in Joliet, tucked between a laundromat and an old diner. Nothing fancy, white paint peeling in places, one window cracked. But it had charm, like a wrench that's been in your toolbox forever, worn but solid. I pulled into the lot and killed the engine. A couple guys from the shop were already outside, smoking and laughing like it was just another Saturday. Manny tossed his cigarette and grinned when he saw me. "Damn, Callahan," he said. "You clean up dangerous." I smirked. "Try not to cry during the vows. I know how emotional you get." He laughed and pulled me into a hug that smelled like rubber and cologne. Inside, the chapel buzzed with low chatter. Someone played soft guitar from a Bluetooth speaker near the front. No pews, just rows of folding chairs, half full with familiar faces from the shop and a few of Ryan's friends from the plumbing company. Everyone looked relaxed, real, no pretenses. Then I saw her, Laura, my maid of honor, best friend since high school. She was standing near the altar, hands on hips, silver jumpsuit tailored just like mine, only flashier. She caught sight of me and jogged over in her boots, nearly knocking down a floral stand. "You're late," she said, wrapping me in a tight hug. "I'm always late. You love it. You look like a damn superhero. You look like backup." We grinned at each other, forehead to forehead for a second, just breathing. She'd seen me cry behind a parts counter at 17 when my dad told me I wasn't going to college. She helped me move into my first solo apartment when mom couldn't sneak away to help. This wedding didn't happen without her. "Ryan's losing it," she said, stepping back. "Keeps asking if he should shave his sideburns again." "Tell him I'll walk out if he does," Laura grinned. "Let's get you hitched." I moved toward the aisle and saw them, my dad's side of the family. A few cousins, an uncle, and his sister. They'd shown up, probably out of obligation or guilt, all in stiff button-ups and cheap perfume. I didn't invite them, but Ryan said he'd added them to the list just in case. They looked up when I entered. Their eyes scanned me, top to bottom. The coveralls, the boots, the lack of makeup, I could feel it. Their silent disapproval settling over the room like a fog. One of them whispered something, and the other smirked. My stomach clenched for a second, then I stepped forward. The fabric of my suit moved with me like it belonged on my body. Tailored shoulders, stitched nameplate, clean lines. I didn't wear a veil. I wore grit and pride and 10 years of doing the damn work. Ryan stood at the altar in his gray coveralls, hair slicked back, looking like he was trying not to burst into a smile. Behind him, the officiant, his older sister, licensed just for the day, gave me a small nod. I caught the eyes of every person in the room who mattered. Tony, Manny, my boss, Carla. Even old man Lou from Parts, who hadn't left his house in months, sat with his cane resting on his lap, nodding like he approved. My father wasn't there. I knew he wouldn't be, but I still looked at the back door once, just in case. Nothing. I faced forward and took my first step down the aisle. As I stepped forward, the room got quieter. I kept my eyes locked on Ryan, but my mind started drifting. Not because I wanted it to, but because the smell of oil and old wood in that chapel hit something deep. Took me back to being 9 years old, standing barefoot in my dad's garage, clutching a socket wrench that was too heavy for my hand. He had a 72 Nova up on the lift. I remember watching him from the corner, arms deep in the engine, grunting under his breath, never looking up. I stood there holding that wrench like it meant something, waiting for him to ask me to help. He didn't. After what felt like forever, I said, "Can I try?" He didn't even flinch, just kept working and said, flat as ever, "Go ask your mother. This ain't for girls." I remember swallowing hard, pretending I didn't hear it right. "But I want to help." "You're not built for this, Sarah," he said, finally glancing at me. "You'll hurt yourself. Go play with your dolls or something." I didn't cry, not in front of him. But I didn't forget either. Mom found me later in my room, wrench still in my hand. She sat beside me and ran her fingers through my hair, quiet like she always was. "You can do anything, honey," she whispered. "Anything that makes you feel alive." She believed in me, even when I couldn't believe in myself. But his words stayed longer. They got in my head. Every time I thought about signing up for shop class or applying to trade school, I heard his voice. Not built for this. Still, I pushed. I was 17 when I applied for my first internship at a small garage outside Joliet. I showed up early, resume in hand, and the manager looked me over like I was there to schedule an oil change. "You ever even hold a ratchet before?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Every day," he chuckled. "All right, prove it." He handed me a stripped bolt stuck in a caliper and walked off. I spent 2 hours getting it loose. No help, no instructions. Just me, some tools, and pure spite. When he came back and saw it sitting on the bench, cleaned and threaded, he raised his eyebrows. "You do that?" "Yep," he shrugged. "All right, you start Monday. Don't make me regret it." I didn't. The first few months were brutal. Some of the guys wouldn't even talk to me unless they were making jokes. "You lost, sweetheart?" Don't chip a nail. Same crap, different day. But I kept showing up, early, prepared. I watched every move, asked questions, didn't whine, didn't flinch. And when the head tech bailed during a rush job, I jumped in without asking. The repair was sloppy, but the car ran. My boss pulled me aside that night, said, "You've got grit. That counts more than polish." A month later, he gave me my own bay. I should have called my dad. Should have told him I was finally doing it. But I didn't. What was the point? He'd already decided I didn't belong. He was just waiting for me to fail so he could nod and say, "Told you." Screw that. I earned my place in the garage, busted knuckles, burnt arms, 10-hour days on my feet. Nobody gave me anything. Every promotion, every job I nailed, every time a customer asked for me by name, that was mine. And now, walking down that aisle in front of a crowd that saw me for who I was, not some little girl with the wrong dream, I carried all of it with me. Every insult, every rejection, every damn wrench I ever turned. My legacy wasn't his, it was mine. Ryan smiled as I reached him, and just like that, the noise faded. His hands were warm, steady, always had been. He leaned in a little, kept his voice low. "You look like trouble," he said. I smirked. "You ready for this?" "Born ready." The efficient cleared her throat and started her speech. Something short and real about choosing each other every day, even when life doesn't go easy. Her words felt right, grounded, like everything we'd built together, wrench by wrench, late night by late night, all led here. Then my phone buzzed. I'd forgotten it was in my jacket pocket, silenced but not off. I almost ignored it, but something in the vibration felt off, longer, like a message, not just another text from Manny or Laura. I slid one hand off Ryan's and slipped the phone out under my jacket, screen hidden from the guests. One new message. "Dad." I opened it with my thumb before I could stop myself. It was a photo. Old, grainy, me, maybe 6 years old, in a baggy t-shirt and overalls, standing in the garage next to a half-assembled carburetor. I remember that day. I'd spent hours lining up nuts and bolts, pretending I was doing something important. He'd snapped the picture without saying a word, then went back to work. Under the photo, he wrote, "You were never meant for this life." My chest tightened. Not rage, not even sadness, just the weight of it. Heavy, final. He wasn't trying to start a fight. He really believed it. After everything, the training, the promotions, the reputation I'd built, this was still his truth. That no matter what I'd become, I didn't belong. I put the phone back in my pocket, eyes still on the floor. My knees went weak for half a second, like someone had knocked the wind out of me. I didn't cry, I didn't flinch, but it landed. Ryan caught it. His hand found mine again. No questions, no pressure, just that firm squeeze, the kind that says, "I'm here. You're not alone." I looked up at him, and he nodded like he already knew what that message said without reading a word. The efficient paused, waiting for me to meet her gaze again. I did. She continued, voice steady. "Do you, Sarah Callahan, choose Ryan to build a life with one grounded in respect, patience, and something real?" I held Ryan's hands tighter. "I do." There was no tremble in my voice, no hesitation, because I was meant for this life. Maybe not the one my father imagined, but one I bled for, one I built piece by damn piece, with my hands, with my grit. My father's words would not be the last thing I heard before I started this next chapter. The efficient turned to Ryan. "Do you, Ryan Adams, promise to—" Ryan cut her off with a grin. "I do." The room laughed, just a little, but it was enough to shift the air, bring warmth back in. Laura let out a dramatic sniff from the front row. Manny whistled low like he was impressed, and the knot in my chest started to loosen. The kiss came quick, but full of everything we'd been through. The late shifts, the support, the belief. The way he never once made me feel like I had to earn my place beside him. Applause followed. Not the wild, over-the-top kind. Just honest, real clapping from people who got it, who saw me. I stepped back with Ryan, his arm around my shoulder. My phone buzzed again. Same sender. I didn't open it. Not now. Maybe not ever. Ryan and I stepped out of the chapel into the fading afternoon light, arms still locked. I could hear the rumble of engines in the parking lot. A few guys from the shop had pulled their project cars out for the occasion. Tony's Camaro revved like it was showing off. Laura was already halfway to the rented hall, shouting something about claiming the good potato salad before it got picked over. The reception was at Vito's garage bar, not even a mile from the chapel. Grease-stained walls, chrome bar stools, and license plates from all 50 states nailed to the beams. It smelled like spilled beer and burnt rubber, and it was perfect. We walked in and were met with cheers, loud, full-throated, no judgment. I hadn't realized how much I needed that until I heard it. Mark, one of the senior techs at my shop, walked over with a beer in one hand and a cigar tucked behind his ear. "Mrs. Adams now, huh?" he said, pulling me into a hug. "Never thought I'd see the day." Don't make it weird, Mark. He stepped back, grinning. You earned this, all of it. You know that, right? I nodded, but it hit harder than I expected. Mark was old school, didn't say much, never handed out praise. The first year I worked under him, he barely looked me in the eye. When I got promoted to lead tech, he didn't clap, but now he was smiling like he meant it. You remember that busted Crown Vic we worked on? I asked. He chuckled. You mean the one you rebuilt while I stood around pretending to help? Exactly that one. He raised his beer. To the boss, I didn't see coming. I raised my water bottle in return, clinked it, then turned toward Ryan. I'm changing my number, I said. He blinked. Now? Tomorrow, first thing. I'm done. He nodded. You sure? Yeah, I'm not carrying his voice around with me anymore. I meant it. The room was filled with people who'd seen me, not just known me, but watched the dam climb. Laura made a toast that was mostly inside jokes and shop talk, and even the guys who didn't cry looked misty. Manny got up and played DJ with a playlist full of rock ballads and old school country, and nobody cared that the sound system sucked. There were no second cousins asking dumb questions, no strangers pretending to know me. Just real people, the ones who showed up when I was still proving myself. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was trying to earn my spot. I was the spot. I pulled out my phone once, just to check the time. Another message, Dad. No subject. Just his name glowing on the screen like it had anything left to say. I didn't open it. I didn't hesitate. I held down my thumb, hit delete, and moved on. Ryan grabbed my hand again. The music picked up. I didn't look back. A week later, I pulled into the gravel lot behind my parents' garage, the same lot I used to ride my bike through, dodging oil stains and broken glass. The building looked exactly the same. Sheet metal siding, paint sun-faded to hell, the old Callahan Auto and Tire sign barely holding on above the door. I cut the engine and just sat there for a second, fingers tapping the steering wheel. I hadn't been back since the wedding, since the messages, but I promised Mom I'd stop by. When I stepped inside, the bell over the door gave that same tired ring. The smell hit me first. Grease, rubber, stale coffee, and time. It wrapped around my throat the way only a place built on memory could. Sarah? Mom called from the back. Yeah, it's me. She came out from behind the counter, smiling like nothing in the world had changed. Same apron, smudged with ink, same eyes that saw through every lie I ever tried to sell growing up. She wrapped me in a hug that still felt like home. I saved you a lemon bar, she said into my ear. You always do. She pulled back, looked me over. You look good. I nodded. Feel good. Then I saw him, Dad, half-shadowed in the back bay, wiping his hands on a rag, pretending he wasn't listening. Same boots, same stance. Like he never left that spot. He didn't move. I didn't either. Mom gave my arm a soft squeeze and said, I'll be in the office if you need me. She slipped away without another word. I walked toward the bay. He finally looked up. No smile, no apology, just a stiff nod. You working on the Ram? I asked. Yeah, he said. Starter's shot. I glanced at the open hood. Bet it's the solenoid, not the motor. Those OEMs always burn out first. He paused just slightly. Already tested that, I nodded. Silence stretched long. Tension sat heavy in the air between us. Then, finally, he said it. I didn't know how to see you, Sarah. It hit harder than I expected. Not because it made anything okay, it didn't, but because it was the first time he'd admitted anything wasn't right. I wasn't asking you to see me, I said. I just wanted you to stop pushing me away. He looked down, scratched the back of his neck. I thought, if I made it hard, you'd toughen up. I did, I said, but not because of you. In spite of you? He winced, just a flicker, but didn't argue. I see what you've built, he said. Your shop, the team, your name. My name's yours too. He nodded. Yeah, it is. We stood there, hands at our sides, both of us too stubborn to step closer. I don't need an apology, I told him. I just need you to stop pretending like I failed because I didn't live your version of success. He didn't speak for a long time, just stared at the engine like it had something more important to say. Then he muttered, I never thought I'd say this, but maybe I was wrong. That was as close to sorry as I was gonna get, and I could live with that. Because I wasn't the same girl who begged him to teach her how to change a spark plug. I wasn't looking for approval anymore. I'd already proven myself to everyone who mattered, including me. I should head out, I said. He nodded. You still carry that hex nut? I smirked. Clipped to my belt? Every day. He looked down and finally gave a half smile. You earned that. I turned and walked out. Didn't rush. Let him watch me go. The metal folding chair under me squeaked as I stood. 40 sets of eyes locked on me. Mostly young guys in work boots and ball caps, arms crossed, skeptical. A few women dotted the front row, pens ready, focused. I cleared my throat, tugged on the sleeve of my jumpsuit. I'm not here to give you a speech about breaking glass ceilings, I said. I'm here because I broke bolts, busted knuckles, and earned my spot one stripped lug nut at a time. A couple chuckles, heads started to nod. I didn't grow up with support from my old man. He owned a shop, sure, but he thought this work wasn't made for girls. I used to stand in his garage and hope he'd hand me a wrench. He never did. I paused, scanned the room. So I took my own. That landed. I could feel it. I told them about trade school, about showing up to interviews with grease-stained hands and being laughed out of shops until someone gave me a shot. About what it felt like to turn around and realize I wasn't proving myself anymore. I was leading. The instructor off to the side gave me the signal. Time was up. Listen, I finished, this trade will test you. Not just your hands, but your heart. But if it's where you belong, no one gets to tell you otherwise. Not your friends, not your family, not even your own doubt. Applause. Real, solid. As the crowd started to thin out, one girl stayed behind. Maybe 19, short brown hair, nervous hands stuffed into her hoodie pocket. Hey, she said, voice quiet. I joined this program because of you. Saw a video of your shop online last year. My throat tightened. I didn't expect that. I didn't think girls like me belonged in places like this, she said. You do, I told her. You always did. You just needed someone to remind you. She smiled, eyes glossy, then slipped out the door. I stood there a moment, letting it settle in. That something I built was bigger than just fixing cars. My phone buzzed in my back pocket. I pulled it out. A photo from Dad. He was hunched over an engine bay, arms deep in grease. The shop looked the same. Cracked floor, pegboard behind him, same bench I used to sit on. No message, no caption, just the picture. I stared at it, thumb hovering. No tears, no noise in my chest, just calm. I locked the screen, tucked the phone away, and walked out of the auditorium into the late afternoon sun.